In this video, we are going to learn about MongoDB Aggregation Pipeline. This aggregation pipeline is a very powerful framework that allows us to query and filter, sort, group, and even restructure data directly at the database engine level. We already have methods like find and find one, which is given by different ORMs and different native drivers. But sometimes we need something even more powerful and advanced. Okay, and this is where the aggregation pipeline for MongoDB comes into picture. Unlike the traditional find or find one method, in this aggregation pipeline, we can chain multiple stages. Okay, that's why it is called as a pipeline, because we can chain multiple stage. Okay, each stage is responsible for performing a specific operation. Okay, so for example, we have match stage and we have projection stage, then we have operations like sorting and filtering, right? We'll obviously see all of this in this video, right? So each stage, okay, it will take the data. The first stage, it will take the data from the main collection, okay, and it will do some processing on that, and whatever the result of that process, it will pass it to the next stage. Okay, that means the next stage will not have the access to the main collection data, but it will have access to the data that has been restructured or filtered or performed by its previous stage. Okay, that's why this is called as a pipeline. Okay, multiple stages work together here. Okay, and the most important advantage is these pipeline or these set of stages that we will write and that we'll learn eventually, they run on the MongoDB query engine, right? That's why they are highly optimized and highly performant. And this makes the aggregation pipeline, the framework, very efficient for building, say for example, reporting engine or statistic generation, right? And preparing different types of report and doing different types of complicated queries that sometimes the find and find one is not sufficient enough, right? So this is where the MongoDB aggregation pipeline comes into picture, and in this video we are going to learn about that. Now I will share the source code with you as always. Just check the description box, you will find a link. Maybe 1 or 2 days after the video has been released, okay, you can check the description box and you will get the link. And also I will share with you the dummy data that we are going to use. Okay, so in this video I have generated some dummy data that I will share with you, and based on that data we'll learn how to perform different operations or different stages on the MongoDB aggregation pipeline. Okay, now this video how I have designed is based on a question and answer form. Okay, so we'll take one concept. Okay, I'll give you multiple questions like filter different types of employee or restructure different employee or find active employees, just for example, right? And then I will show you how to write a pipeline for that. Okay, and that pipeline we will run in our Node.js environment and we'll see the output. Okay, like that we'll perform different stages and we will add different questions in the particular staging series. Okay, so this is how I have designed the course. Now next up, of course, let us set up the database and the Node.js project that we are going to build. Now let us do our database setup. For this, of course, you need a running MongoDB instance. It could be a cloud instance or it could be a local Docker image that you might be running, right? As long as you know how to connect, that means you have the connection string, you are good to go, right? Now what I'm using a local installed MongoDB server in my system, right? And I am using MongoDB Compass to connect to that instance. So here you can see that I am connected to the Mongo local instance. Okay. Now what I will do here is I'll go to create database. For the database name, I'm going to say aggregation practice, but feel free to give whatever name you feel like, right? For me, this name makes sense, so I'm giving this one. And the collection name, so I'll name it as employees. Then click on create database. Then here I have option to import data. So what I will do, I will import this employees.json. This you can find in the source code that I have shared with you, right? You can check the description box. You will find the link. There you will find the complete project, and in that project there will be a data folder, and inside that you will have the employees.json. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to select it and it will automatically import. Okay, so I'll say import, and it has imported all this data. So if you see, there are 500 documents in this collection that has been imported, right? So if you see here, I have designed a schema in such a way that it has all the variety of data structures that is possible. Okay, so if you see name, this is a nested object, and we have email as string, age as number, right, is active as boolean, then date type, then your decimal and floating types, right? Then we have array types, and then we have array of objects, right? So if you see here, the certificates, name and year, right? Then we have address, that is nested objects, and we have location, right? These are coordinate types, and if you see, we have projects, which is again an array of objects, right? And within that object we have array, right? So this way we have a lot of surface area to learn different operations on different data types. Okay, so that's how I have designed this schema. Okay, now with this done, we will go to our Node.js project and we will set it up. Now let us start setting up our Node.js project. So here I have opened my VS Code in a particular folder. Feel free to use any other code editor that is your favorite. And here I have one folder data that has the employees.json. I have kept it here so that it will be easy for me to share with you guys. Right? This folder I am going to use it as an npm project. So for that, what I will do, I will say npm init and -y. Okay, so I'll hit enter, so it will create a basic package.json for me, and this folder will be treated as a Node.js project. Right now, what I have to do now, two things we have to understand here. This is not going to be a express setup. Okay, this is going to be just a playground setup where we will write multiple pipelines and we will execute them one by one, and we will see the result, how it is behaving, right? So this is not going to be production grade setup. This is just going to be a playground level setup. Okay, and here, as I said, we are not going to use Express, and even we are not going to use the Mongoose ORM. Okay, because here I'm not going to create any schema or anything like that. We are going to use the native JavaScript npm MongoDB driver. We will write some function to connect to the database, get a collection instance, and run a pipeline on that. So that is going to be the approach for this project. Okay, now what dependency we have to install? So first of all, I'll clean this one and I will say npm install. Okay, and I will install MongoDB. So this is the native MongoDB driver. Okay, so we'll give some time to install. Okay, once this is installed, we see in package JSON we have this MongoDB as a dependency. Okay, and what I will do, I will also add a dev script. Okay, so that I can run npm run dev, and what this will do, this will hit node1 and it will watch on index.js. Okay, great. Now with that done, what we will do, I will create another folder and name it as db, and inside that I will add a folder and I will name it as connect.js. So this is going to be the entry point for our database connection. Okay, so I'll save this one. Okay, and I will come here, and what I will do, and before that I will do one more thing. Okay, now what I am doing, so in Node.js, either we can use the required syntax like this, or we can use the import syntax. Okay, I'm going to use import syntax. For that, what I will do, I will come to my package.json And here what I will update, if you see this type, it says common JS. I am going to change it to module so that it will understand import syntax and not the required syntax. Okay. Then what I will do, I will import, okay, something from, okay, the MongoDB npm package that we install. Okay. What I will import, I will import the Mongo client. Then let me create few variables. Okay, so first one is Mongo URI. Okay, so this is where you have to give your connection string to the MongoDB. So if you have taken it from a cloud instance, you will get some interface to fetch the connection string, right? Or if it is a Docker instance, of course you must have done the port mapping, right? So you can use that. For me, it is a local installation, right? So I'll say MongoDB colon MongoDB, okay, colon / and localhost and port 27017. Okay, so be careful if you have changed your port number for whatever reason. Okay, you have to add that port number. Then const db name, right? So for db name, you have to give the exact same name that you have given when we created the database instance and we did the employee JSON import, right? So you have to give the database name here. Okay, aggregation practice. Then I will create a client variable. Then I will write a export function. So this is going to be async. Okay, and I will name it as connect to db. Now what we will do, this project is always going to run in our devs environment, right, through the nodemon. But every time I run it, I don't want to do another connection to the database, right? So that's why I created the client variable. I'll check if I already have established at least one connection. Okay, so if I don't have a client, then only perform this operation. Okay, now what operation? So we'll say client equals to new Mongo client, and what it will take? It will take the Mongo URI. Then I will await, okay, client dot connect. Simple. And then I can add a console dot log, and I can say connected to MongoDB. And once I have the client, okay, I will say return client dot db and db name, right? So I'll return this client that has access to our particular collection. Which collection? The aggregation practice collection. So next time when you are hitting, and we already have a client value, okay, this if will not executed, it will not always do this connect, it will simply return the available client. Simple logic. Then what we will do, we'll create our index.js file. So this is going to be the entry point, index.js. Okay, and what I will add, first I have to import what? Import connect to db, right? This is the file that we created, and we should use the .js extension, right, when we are using the import syntax. If it was the required syntax, the .js extension is not required, right? Then I will create async function main, okay, and I will call the main function. Here what I will do, I will add a simple try catch block, and in the catch block I will simply do console.error, and I will add the error message, right? And in the finally block, okay, what I will do, I will say process.exit, and let us say 0, right? So what will happen, every time the function will run, it will always exit, because we are going to use nodemon and we are going to write one pipeline. We will run that, we'll see the result, and let the node.js process exit. Okay, and as I said, this is not a production level setup, right? This is just a playground. I will never set up my production grade application in this manner, right? I have kept it simple so that the main idea is to understand about pipeline, and we just need a database connection, right? That's all. So that's why I have followed this pattern. Now I will say const db equals to await, and I will call my function connect to db, right? So I will have the db instance with me. Okay, so if you see connect to DB, what it is returning client.db, and I'm passing the database name, right? So whatever is returned by this function, it has a reference to my database instance, in this case aggregation practice. Now on this database instance, I have a function to get a instance of a particular collection, right? So I can say db dot collection, and I will say employees, right? So this is the collection name that we have given, right? And I will add it in a variable called employees, right? Simple. Then I'll say const result. Okay. Now what result? This is going to be the result of the aggregation pipeline. Okay. So I will say await. I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So await employees dot aggregate and pipeline. So we don't have this pipeline variable. I'll tell you how to get this one. Dot to array. Okay, because this pipeline or this aggregation framework, it returns a cursor. Cursor means it will have say 10 or 20 documents, and to fetch further document you might have to call another next function, right? So it will not give you say the pipeline return 1000 document, but this will not return you 1000 document, but it will give you a cursor, and each cursor instance will have certain subset of the document. Then you can go to the next cursor instance and you will get further documents, right? So that's how cursor works, some sort of pagination. Okay, so here I'm bypassing that. How? I'm just converting it to array so that we'll have all the instance with me, right? And I will say console dot log, and I will say result. Okay, now coming to this pipeline variable. Okay, what I will do, I'll say for now this is just temporary. Okay, let pipeline equals to an empty array. That means I'm not passing any pipeline. Okay, now eventually we will create different files, each file corresponding to one pipeline stage. Okay, say for example we are going to learn about project, we are going to learn about match. From each file, okay, we'll export a variable called pipeline, and that pipeline variable we are going to import in the index.js. Okay, and that will run. So every time we update something in our file where we are going to learn about the pipeline stages, that update will trigger the node 1. Okay, that pipeline value will be imported here eventually. Okay, when we start writing the aggregation pipeline, I will show you how we are doing that, right? And that pipeline will be automatically executed by this line number 8. Okay, if it is little bit confusing, just hang on. In the next section we will start writing our first pipeline. Okay, and that everything will be clear. Okay, now the basic project setup is done. Okay, let me run this one. So if you see the result, okay, since our, so if you see here, okay, we are getting some output. Okay, so these are the collection items. Okay, and if you see here, it is saying 400 more items. So it has kind of printed everything because we are giving empty in the pipeline. That means there is no filter, so it will give everything from the collection, right? So it has given everything and it is telling us 400 more items, right? So this is how we'll get the output in our console. So this is all for the project setup, and in the next section we are going to start from our first aggregation pipeline stage, that is a match stage. Now let us start writing our first aggregation pipe, that is the match pipeline. Okay, so what is a match pipeline? So we have the employee collection, and each employee is associated with certain values like age and the department, the active status, and based on these characteristics we are going to filter the employees collection. This is where match pipeline comes into picture. So it will match certain condition from the employee collection and filter out those employees that matches this condition. Okay, now this is very similar to say a where condition. If you think about this in terms of SQL or the structured query language, that we use for relational database. In this non-relational or this MongoDB world, we have the similar concept as a match pipeline. Okay, so let us start writing some aggregation and let us start with the match pipeline stage. So for this, what I will do, on the root of the project, I will create one folder and I will call it as aggregations. Here I will show all my aggregation that we will practice one by one, right? And I will add one file and I will name this one dot and I will say match.js. Now why I am giving dot one, so that when you have the access to this repository, you will get it in a serial number 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, and it will be easy for you to practice, because to some extent this pipeline that I am covering one by one, this is built on top of one another, kind of, not in a strict sense, but to some extent if you know match, that you are going to use it in a project or group or sort, right? So I'm trying to maintain some kind of seriality on this. That's why I'm giving one dot and the file name dot js, right? So first is match. Let us start with that. So here what I will do, I will say let pipeline and I will say export default pipeline, right? So whatever pipeline I'll write one by one, I'll update on this variable, and ultimately at the end of this file, this variable is exported. So here on index, what I will do, I will import this particular pipeline instead of this let variable. Okay, so I'll say import pipeline from dot slash aggregations, then one dot match dot js, right? And this pipeline is used here. Okay, great. So I will save this one, and what I will do is I will add one console dot clear statement before executing the main function, right? So what will happen, every time the code runs, it will clear this string for me and it will print the output, right? So if I save this one, okay, you'll see screen is getting cleared. So what I will do, I will kill this, I will do a clear and I will run the npm run dev, right? So here we are getting the data back. Now let us start writing our first aggregation. Okay, so what we will do in our first aggregation. So what I will do is I will hide the file tree, so that we will get some more space to write. Okay, so I will bring the first question. So what is the first question? It is asking, find all employees who are active and belong to the engineering department. Okay, so let us go to our database and inspect the data and see what information is there and what the question is asking. Okay, so it is saying who are active. So if you see here, we have one is active flag, okay, and department as engineering. So if you see here, we have a department, okay, and this is engineering, and we have more departments. So let us check few more tables. So if you see here, department is finance and is active is false, right? Great. And what else? So we have is active and department is support, right? So what you have to do, you have to find active employees who are in engineering department, right? So this is straightforward because this is directly on the first level of the object. It is not on the nested object, right? So let us write this pipeline and understand how we actually write a pipeline and how to satisfy the condition in this question, right? So we'll say pipeline equals to, it is always an array, okay, and this array, of course, it will take multiple stages. Okay, so I can have one stage, after that I'll have one more stage, and maybe after that I'll have one more stage, any number of stages, right? We are starting simple, so I'll add only one stage. Okay, now what are we going to add in this stage? So we are going to add a match stage. Okay, so this is how you add a match stage. So we have pipeline. Inside this we have one stage, and that stage is a match stage. Okay, now what we have to do here? So here we have the access to the object. Okay, you can think it like this, a regular JavaScript object, right? JavaScript object, right? So is active and department, right? We have access to this. So what I will do, I will say is active as true, okay, and department as engineering. Okay, now if I add this much, okay, what this will do? This will take this pipeline to the MongoDB engine and it will execute and it will filter the result for me. Okay, so when I save this one, what we will get? Let us check the data that we are getting back. Okay, so if you see here is active true department engineering, right? Okay, then this is the next object. Okay, so here is active true department engineering, right? Just check one more data. So is active true department is engineering. So you see the pattern, right? What it has done, it has filtered all the collections in which we have is active as true and department as engineering, right? So we have some collection, okay, that has been printed to the console. Great. Now let us take one more example. Okay, so this is the next question. Find all employees, okay, whose age is greater than 40. Okay, now let us inspect the data again. Okay, so do we have a age field? Yes, we have a age field. Okay, here we are going to use this and do a match for all the employees whose age is greater than 40. Now I strongly recommend that you pause the video once and just give it a try. Okay, and of course I will show you the solution. So what we will do, I'll say as usual the pipe, okay, the pipeline, and here I will add one stage, okay, and this is going to be the match stage, okay, and here what I will do, I'll say age, okay. Now how I do greater than, okay, so for this I will add curly braces, and I will say GT, that is greater than 40. Okay. Now, if you see here, we were doing equality just as a key value pair in the object, right? So this also you can do similar to this one, EQ. Okay, right? So this is a EQ operation, that is a equal operation equal to engineering, right? Here what I'm doing? I'm doing greater than 40, right? In the same line, I have greater than equal to, okay, and I have less than as well as less than equal to, right? These are all the operations that are available with me when I am doing aggregation. Okay, now what I will do, this I will revert to that. This I added just for your understanding. That is also how you can do the equality. This is a short simple notation, right? So here what it is saying, age, okay, age greater than 40. Okay, so this is only we have to add for this particular pipeline, right? So I will save this one and I will run the, of course it is running in the background, right? So if you see age 44, right? Then next age again 44, right? And next age 57, right? And next age is 60, right? So what it has done, it has filtered all employees whose age is greater than 40, right? And similarly, if you want, you can practice all the employees whose age is, say for example, less than 30, okay, or greater than equal to 25. Like that, you can continue practicing, right? Now we will go to next question. So here, what it is saying, find all employees who have the skill MongoDB. Okay, so when you have to create a data or you have to write a particular stage, particular aggregation, you should always be familiar with the data, right? So what it is saying, skill should be MongoDB. Okay, and let us see if we have skill somewhere in the database collection in our document, right? So if you see skill, okay, skill is nothing but an array, okay, that can have multiple string value, right? So if you see example, MongoDB, Docker, and JavaScript, right? And one more example, so here Go and JavaScript, right? So what we have to do, we have to filter all employees whose skill, okay, it has a MongoDB in the given skill set. Okay, so here we have MongoDB as the skill set, but if you see here, we don't have MongoDB, right? So this should not be filtered. And here, let us take one more example. So Python, Go, and Kubernetes, right? So this is also not needed. So this is also one more example that we don't have MongoDB in the skill. So let us figure out how to write a match pipeline in which we have MongoDB in the given skill array, right? Great. So let us start. So what we will do, we will say pipeline equals to, and I will add one match pipeline. So I'll say match. Okay. What I will do, array. Okay. You have to treat it in similar way how we have treated other key value pairs, regular key and the string types. Okay. So here if you see department as engineering, right? In array also we will follow the same pattern. Okay. We don't have to do anything special because it's an array. Okay. We'll just treat it like, okay, skills as MongoDB. Right? Simple. Okay. That means match all employees where we have skill as MongoDB as one of the entries in this skills array. Okay. That's what it means. Okay. So it is as simple as that. So I will save this one, and if you see the result here, say for example this one skill, it has MongoDB, right? Let us check one more object. So where is skill? So if you see skill here, we have MongoDB, right? So let us take one more example. So here also if you see skill as MongoDB, right? So the output that we are getting is actually doing the filter or match based on the skills as MongoDB as one of its entries, right? Great. Now next question. Now what it is saying, find all employees from the marketing or HR department, right? Now again I strongly recommend pause the video, try this one, check the DB schema from where you will get the marketing or HR department, okay, and try once, and of course my solution is coming. So let us go to our database, okay, and we will check the department. Okay, so department is engineering, okay, and department is sales, and what else? Department is again marketing. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to find marketing as marketing or HR. Okay, great. So if you see here, we have already done engineering. Now we have to see how we can add a or condition. Okay, that means marketing or HR. It should be both. Okay, so what we will do, again this process still remains the same, and it will always remain same throughout this video. Okay, so I'll add a pipeline array, and I will add a match stage. Okay, now what I will add in the match, so of course I have to say department. Okay, and I will introduce one more operation, that is $in. Okay, and I'll pass an array. Okay, and in this array I will say marketing, and I will say HR. That means what it will do, it will match all the employees whose department is in marketing, HR, or you can pass any number of parameters based on your or condition, right? Here I am passing 2, for example, but of course you can understand that this is an array and it can take multiple parameters, and whatever value you will pass here, based on that you will get the data back, right? So here I am saying marketing or HR. Okay, fetch all employees in marketing or HR department, right? So I will save this one, and the Node.js node-mon has rerun. That's how it will happen, right? So if you see department HR, and what else? Department marketing, right? And let us take one more example, department HR, right? What else? So we have department as HR, right? So this we are able to filter properly, right? That's what I just want to show you, right? Great. Then we'll go to next question. Find all employees who joined after 1st January 2019. Okay. So I strongly recommend practice on your own. Check the database schema. See how we'll get the date of joining. Okay. And I'll show you my solution, right? So I'll say pipeline equals to, and I will add one stage, and I'll add the match stage here, and I'll say date of joining, and this should be capital. Okay, date of joining. Okay, who have joined after this 2019 1st January date, right? So I will say greater than, okay, new date, and I will pass this particular date. Okay, so 01-01. Okay, so if you see here what I am doing, date of joining is greater than this particular given date, right? So at the core, it is still JavaScript that is running, right? So you can always use this new date syntax, right? So I'll save this one, and if you see, date of joining is 2023. It is after 2019, right? So let us take few more examples. Date of joining is 2023, right? Date of joining 2025, right? 21 and 25, and let me see if we have any edge case. So we have this 2020, right? Still after 2019, right? And see here, this is 2019, and which are the 10th month. So this is October, right? So in October, and here what I'm saying, the January, right? 1st of January. So this guy has joined on October. So this has been filtered, right? So 2025, 2020, sorry, not 2025. This is last login. Date of joining is 2019, 2023, like that, right? So it has filtered based on this particular date condition, right? Great. So now let us go to next question. Find all employees who have a project with status ongoing, right? So let us check the database, and if you see here, we have projects, right? And if you open one project, it is an array of objects, right? And it has name, duration, something, and we have status as on hold, right? So you have to figure out all the employees whose project status is what, ongoing. Okay, so it can have multiple projects. Okay, we have to figure out minimum one project that is in ongoing status, and we have to list all those employees. So this is similar to the skill set. Okay, in skill set we had array of strings. Okay, now we have array of objects. Simple, right? So what we can do, we can use the dot notation to navigate to that particular object, right? So let me show you what do I mean by that. So here what I will do, I'll say pipeline, right? And I will add a match pipeline. Okay, and here, just like we treat a regular key value pair, we'll take array of object or any array in the similar fashion, right? So here I was saying skills, right? Now what I have to say, I have to say projects dot status. Okay, it should be ongoing, right? So that's all we have to add, right? See this, how powerful this framework is, right? So here I will save this one. Okay, and here if you see the projects, it is showing as object, right? I recommend you that you print this as a json.stringify, and then you can check the result, but I'm keeping it here only, right? If you want, you can do more verification, and if you want, you can practice more on this. So say for example, here we had this in condition, right? So what you can do, you can find out all the employees whose project status is ongoing or on hold, right? That is one type of question that you can practice. Okay, or you can also do projects that duration in months is say more than 10 months, right? So you can figure out all those employees. Okay, and you can practice more questions like this, right? So for match, okay, I am going to stop it here. Of course, you can run your imagination, you can practice more on this, and we will go to next pipeline, that is a project stage. Okay, now let us start with our next pipeline stage. Okay, that is a project stage. Okay, now what happens in a project stage? Okay, so if you see our current output, okay, we are getting all the employee key value pair. Okay, so for example, the employee collection has 100 keys. We are getting back all those keys, right? And that is not something that we always want. We want to filter out selective key value pair from the employee. Like say for example, I just want first name and email, right? I don't want others, right? So this is where the project stage comes into picture. This particular stage is similar to select condition in a SQL world, right? So if you say, you can say select star from employees, it will give all the columns. But if I say select name, comma, email, it will only give me the name and email from the employees table, right? Similar to here also, the fundamental concept is same. You select only the columns that you want. Okay, you don't have to select everything, right? So this is where the project stage comes into picture. So what we will do in this aggregations, okay, I'll add a new file and I will call to.project.js, right? And here I will say let pipeline and export default pipeline, and I will come to index, and instead of one.match.js I will say to project.js, right? So now the main function, it will take the pipeline from the project.js file, okay, and here I'll say this one, okay. Now what this project can help us, so as I said, I can include or exclude particular fields, okay. Also it can help me in renaming fields, and also I can compute or derive a new field from say 2 or 3 given fields, right? Of course I'll show you the examples, right? So let us start. So our first question is show only name, email and department, and we have to exclude the underscore id field. If you see here this underscore id, okay, this is just a database primary key kind of thing, right? We don't need this to expose it to the reporting engine or the statistic engine, right? So we'll skip this one, okay. So how do we do this? So the fundamental concept remains same. I'll create a pipeline, okay, and here I'll add one stage, and what this stage is going to be, previously it was match, now it is project, okay. So what it will project, okay, if we have to project something, okay, we will add one, okay, and if we don't have to project, we'll keep it as 0, okay. Now how this will work, either you can add one, okay, that means if you say name and email as one, okay, it will take only those and skip everything else, okay. Other way is, say for example, if you give only say salary as 0, okay, it will just skip the salary part and it will give all other fields, okay. So what you can do, either you can give all the fields that you want to be selected and you have to add one, or you have to give all the fields that you don't want it to be selected and just give 0, okay. You cannot do mix and match, it doesn't make sense. But the only exception is underscore id, okay. So what you can do, you can say underscore id as 0 and then you can add other fields, right, as 1, okay. So let me show you the example. So I can say dot id as 0, okay, name as 1, okay, and say email as 1, and let us say department as 1, okay. Now I will take this one, and what I will do, I will rerun the node.js nodemon process, right? So if you see here, all the employee collections, okay, we have name, email and department, right? And we don't have any other fields, right? So if you remember the previous output, we had everything, right? Here we don't have everything, we just have name, email and department, right? Okay, I can add this field also is active, okay, is active as 1, not true 1. That means select the is active field irrespective of its status, right? So I can save this one, and if you see here, we have name, email is active and department, right? So we are getting these fields, right? Now I told you that we can create different stage pipeline, okay. We can use multiple stages, right? So previously we learned that we have a match stage, right? Now what I can do is I can copy this one, okay, just to give you the example, okay, and here I can add it, okay. So now if you see here, what I'm doing, I'm adding two different stages. One is a match stage, one is a project stage. What is happening here? On the first stage, okay, it is matching all the employees who are active and department as engineering. After that, I am doing a projection of those employees who are active and department. I'm projecting their name, email, department, and is active. Right. So if you see the output, now what it is active through department engineering. Is active through department engineering. Right. Similarly, all those results. Right. So what has happened here? I have added one stage and I have added another. This project stage has access to the result given by this match stage or its previous stages, right? So I'll remove this one. I have added this just for your reference. Okay. So the question says show only name, email, department, and exclude ID. Okay. So I'll remove the is active also. Okay, just to be consistent with the question, right? Great. So now we'll do the next question. Okay, so now what we have to do, show only name and the first element of the skills array, right? So if you remember, we had skills array, right? So all we have to do is we have to just pick the first element from the skills array, right? So let us see how to do that. Okay, so I added a pipeline. I will add a stage, and this is going to be the project stage. Okay, so as usual, let me remove the ID. Okay, name I will add as one. Okay, and I will say first skill. Okay, now if you see the database, okay, we don't have a field called as first skill. Okay, we just have skills. So here, what I can do, I can add a derived field. This is called as a derived field. Okay, I'm deriving this value based on other fields. Okay, so first skill. Okay, what is the first skill? First skill is we have this operation. Okay, array element add. Okay, this one operation where I have to perform this operation on the skills column, and which index I have to pick the zeroth index. Okay, it is saying the first element, right? So for example, if you want to pick third index or last index, you can do like this. Okay, so skills and the zeroth index as first skill. Okay, so I'll take this one. So if you see here, we have name, okay, and first skill as AWS. Okay, and here if you see name and the first skill is go, right? So let me just show it a little bit in a better way. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, so now this is looking little better. Okay, so if you see name, okay, something, and first skill react, right? First skill go, first skill Node.js, right? So we are able to figure out the first skill along with the name, right? Great. Okay, now let us go to next question. So what it is saying? So full name. Okay, so if you check the database, we have name as an object, as a nested object, and we have first and last, right? Now we have to use this field concatenate basically to come up with full name, right? Great. So let us do that. So as always, I'll do pipeline as an array of stages, and I will add one stage, and this will be the project stage. Okay. Now I'll say full name. You can give any name to this, right? You can say employee full name or anything, right? I'm just saying full name. Okay. And I have one operation called concat. Okay. Concat what? Concat, it will take array of strings. Okay. Now what value it will take? Okay. It will take dollar name dot first, right? So this dollar, okay, it means this dollar refers to the collection column, right? If I don't add this dollar, it will take this as a literal name, like name dot first as the string, right? I'll show you. Okay, and here I can say name dot last, right? let me just do this. This is not correct. Okay, this will show you what is the importance of that dollar symbol. So I will save this one, right? So if you see, this is saying first name dot last name, first name dot last name. Okay, the literal string value. But what we actually want, we want the columns value, right? So I'll say dollar. Okay, so now it will point to the value of the column, right? And what else I can do? I can add, okay, one more value and just as a space. Okay, so now if you see, it says Tim Evans and Jamia Ross and John Brown and all those things. So these are the made up names, right? So what it is saying, full name, and we are getting ID, right? So how do we get rid of ID? So I'll say underscore ID as 0, right? And I will add a comma. Okay, so now we are getting full name, right? Great. So now we are able to concatenate and get another field called full name, which natively doesn't exist in the given collection, right? Great. Now let us go to next question. Okay, so I will do view what wrap. Okay, great. So what it is saying? So all employees, okay, with a new field called is senior, and it is true if experience is greater than 5, else false. Okay, great. So let us dissect this question. Okay, what it is saying? Experience is greater than 5. Okay, now if we check the database, okay, we don't have the experience field, right? Do we have a field called experience? No, right? But what else we have? If you see, we have this date of joining, right? So we can derive a new field, okay, called experience, okay, and that experience we can use to show the true and false, right? So let us take that approach and see how we can achieve our result. So I will say, as always, pipeline, and I will add, okay, add a stage, and what this stage will be. Okay, now before I go to the solution of this particular question, I'll introduce you to one more stage called as add field. Okay, now as the name suggests, what this will do, this stage will add one more field to our collection. Okay, so say for example, our collection has 50 columns. Okay, with this add field, I can add one more derived field into the collection, and the next pipeline will have, in our case, say 51 columns, right? So let us learn this add field. Okay, so I'll say add fields. Okay, now here let me take the example of this full name. Okay, so here what I'm doing, I am adding this full name to our collection, not to our collection in the database, but just in this pipeline stage. Okay, so now if I do only this much and if I save, okay, what will happen? I'm getting all the values, okay, of the original employees collection. Okay, but if you see here, we are not seeing this full name, right? So how can I see this full name? So here I will add the project stage, okay, and I will project the full name as 1, and here I will close the, okay, I just fixed the bracket and everything. So we have add fields, in which I am adding one field. I can even add more fields, right? And I am doing project of full name. Okay, that means here if you see, I'll scroll down. Okay, here I am getting the ID and I am getting the full name, right? So here I am adding that particular field and I am projecting that particular field. Okay, it is very similar to this one, but here what I have done, I have added it in two different steps. Okay, I am adding the field as full name and then projecting it as 1, right? Great. Now when I add a field called experience, okay, so what I will do, I will come here and I will add a field called experience. Okay, and how can I calculate. So what I can do is I can use this operator date diff. Okay, and what it will take the start date, and that will be okay dollar okay date of join okay and end date. Okay, what is this going to be? This is going to be dollar dollar and now. So dollar dollar is like a global operation kind of thing. The single dollar will point to the collection column. Okay, double dollar is like kind of global variables like new date we have in JavaScript. Right? So in the same line with this dollar dollar now, it will get the current timestamp. Okay, and another important field is unit. This is going to be year, right? You can say days or months, right? So in what unit you want the result, right? So say for example, say one employee joined in 2021 and today is 2025. So I'll do subtraction and I'll get 2025 minus 2021, which will be say 4, for example, right? So I'll get experience as 4, right? Now where I am adding this inside this add field stage, right? Now what I can do is in project I can project experience, right? So let us see what we are getting, and what I can do also is remove the ID field. Okay, so if you see here we have this experience field. Okay, experience something, right? 759 like that. Okay, but what we have to do, we have to say if he is a senior or not, right? So I can say is senior. Okay, and what we will do, okay, so we have one more operator, and it's about learning different operators. You don't have to memorize, but once you practice this, right, you will get some idea that, oh, I have a condition filter, right? So I'll say cond. Okay, this is the short form. Okay, condition. What condition? If, okay, if something, okay, then something else something, right? So this is very similar to how we write if else condition in other programming language, right? So if, okay, condition, then do this, else do the other part. So what will be the condition? Okay, condition will be, remember the GT operator. Okay, this GT operator, okay, what it will take? It will take the experience. Okay, dollar experience. Okay, and what else it will take? It will take 5. Why 5? Because I have this 5 given in the question, right? Based on the situation or the requirement that you are trying to fulfill. Based on that, you can add this value, right? So if experience greater than 5, okay, then I'll say true. Okay, else false. Simple, right? So I'll save this one. And if you see here, I'll just take some space here. So full name experience is senior true. Why? Because experience is greater than 5. See here, experience is 4, less than 5, obviously. So is senior is false, right? So this is how I can solve this particular, right? Great. Now, shall we go to next question? Okay. So what it is saying? It is saying show a field called location summary that combines address city and address state as a single string, okay, with a comma separation. Okay, so what do I mean by this? So we have this address. Okay, this is a nested object, and here I have street and city and state and zip, right? So what we have to combine? We have to combine the city and state, right, as a single string. Okay, so here what I will do, I will say pipeline equals to, and I will add the projection. Okay, so I'll say project. Okay, and what I have to do, I have to add a new field called location summary. Okay, and here what I will do, I will do some concatenation, right? We have seen this, and we will concatenate what? Will concatenate dollar address dot city. Okay, and we will concatenate a comma and a space. Okay, and we will add address dot state, right? Simple. And I will save this one, and I will scroll down. Okay, and if you see, we have location summary. Okay, something Victoria side MP and not and here Portbrook MI, right? So these are all dummy made up data. You don't have to check what is the data, but you have to check the key value pair and the new field that we are adding, right? That is the essence here, right? So this is how you can project, and this ID is still showing. So what you have to do? You have to add this ID as 0, right? So this will remove the ID, right? So we'll get the location summary. And what else we can do? Add one more stage, okay? And I will add the head field, okay? And I can remove the experience, like not needed. Okay, so here I have full name, and here I can say full name as 1, right? See now how powerful this framework is becoming. I can add a field as full name and add it here as a protection. So if you see full name and location summary, right? See how wonderful we're able to restructure and filter our data, right? Now, one more question on this project. So what it is saying? It is saying rename the field email to work email and show only full name and work email. Okay. Okay. So we have email field, right? So if you see, we have email field, right? So we'll change it to work email. So I can say pipeline. Okay. And what I can do, I can add one stage. Okay. And I'll add this stage full name, right? Because we want to display the full name, right? And I'll add one more stage. It will be the project stage, and here I have to project the full name as 1 and work email. Okay, what is this going to be? Dollar email, dollar email, right? And let us save this one, right? So if you see full name and work email, right? Full name and work email, and of course you know how to remove the ID field, so I'm not saying that. So this is where I'm concluding the project. Of course, there are so many things to practice and learn, and you can of course use your imagination to figure out different questions, right? To project and to filter and to add fields, right? And of course you can add the match on top of this. Okay, so match on top of this, right? Match all female gender. Okay, and for them only you print the full name and work email, right? This is one example that you can practice on your own, right? So this is where I'm concluding, and we'll learn next stage in the upcoming section. Okay, now project is completed. Then we'll go to our next pipeline, that is a group. So what basically group will do? It is like aggregation. Okay, if you talk in terms of SQL, so what you can do in group is by a particular field, say for example gender or by department name. Okay, you can group the collection, and for each group you can run some aggregate functions like sum, average, mean, max, like that. Okay, so we'll learn about group. So what I will do, I will create a new file and name it as tree.group.js. Okay, and what I will do, I'll say let pipeline, and I will say export default pipeline. Great. And after that, I'll open index.js, and here I will change it to tree.group.js, right? And here what I will do, I'll run the dev server. Okay, so this will print all the result. Okay, great. Now let us go to our first question. Okay, so let me do word wrap. Okay, so what it is saying, group employees by department and count how many employees are there in each department, right? So if you check the database, we have this department field. Okay, so we have multiple departments, right? So we have engineering, we have support, and we have HR, right? So what we have to do, we have to group by the department, and we have to count how many employees are there in each department, right? So how do we write a pipeline for this? So I will update the pipeline variable, okay, and I will say pipeline equals to an array of pipelines, okay, array of stages, okay. And what I will do, if you remember, I was using project and match, right? So similarly, I have a group stage. Okay. Now, what we will write here, one of the mandatory field that must contain in a group stage is this underscore ID field. Okay, this is not the Mongo ID that you are seeing here. Okay, but this is the ID of the key on which you are doing the grouping. Okay, so here we are doing grouping based on department. So I'll say department, right? Okay, then what we will do, let us do total count. Okay, so here I will use the aggregate function sum as 1 means it will do sum on each department and add the value as total count. Okay, so this is what it will do. Now what I will do, I will save it. Okay, and this is the result. Okay, so engineering, that is the ID field. Okay, this is mandatory. Okay, if you don't add this, you will get error. Okay, you will get engineering total count. Okay, finance total count. Okay, sales total count. Okay, and what will happen if you give department as null? That means it won't do any grouping. Okay, it will just run through the collection and do a count. Okay, so if you remember, we had total 500 documents in our collection, right? So that's why we are getting 500. Okay, I'll revert it back to department. Okay, now you are getting the original value. Now you might ask that, okay, this ID as engineering and support, it doesn't make sense when we generate a report out of it, right? So what, say for example, I want to have a department name instead of ID, right? So how can we do that? So of course, if you change it here, it will throw error, right? So if I say name, okay, it will throw error. Okay, so we'll revert it back, and what we will do, we will add a project stage. Okay, so how we can do that? So I will add a project stage. Okay, so what I am trying to do, I am trying to show you different possibilities. Okay, if you want to rename a field or add additional fields, right? So these are the things I am trying to show you. Okay, great. So what I will do, I will say department name. Okay, now what will be the department name? The department name will be dollar, okay, underscore ID. So if you see dollar department, this exists on the main collection, right? Because this is the first pipeline stage. Okay, in the subsequent stage, I don't have access to department, but what I have access to, I have access to ID and total count, right? So when I do dollar underscore ID, it refers to this value. Okay, and what else I can do? I can do total count as 1. That means it will include total count in the result. Okay, so now if you see, we are getting ID, total count, and department name. Now what I can do to remove this ID, because this is redundant, right? Finance as well as finance, right? So what I can do, I can say underscore ID as 0, right? So now we are able to generate a very neat and clean report, right? Great. Now let us go to next question. Okay, so what it is saying, group employees by gender and calculate average salary in each gender. Okay, so what I strongly recommend, you try it once and then later you can come back for my solution. Okay, so pipeline. Okay, and I will add a group stage. Okay, and here what I will do, let me fix the indentation. Okay, okay, then group. Okay, so we have to add the ID field, and based on what column we want to group. Okay, so we want to group it by the gender column, right? Okay, then I'll add a field, say for example average salary. Okay, then I will have the average aggregate function. Okay, on which field? On the salary field. Okay, so if you check the database, okay, we have gender, okay, and we have salary, right? So we are grouping by gender, and for each gender we are doing average on this salary field. Okay, so I will save this one. Okay, and if you see, we have female, male, we have the average salary. Okay. Then what if I ask you also add the total count in each gender? Okay. So how you will do that? So I will say total count. Okay. As we have already seen this one. So sum as 1. This is what we will add, right? So here we will get total count, okay, as well, right? And if you want to change this ID from male, female, and others, you already know what you have to do, right? Okay. Now, if you see this average salary, okay, it has lot of decimal places, right? What I want to do is to have only two decimal places, right? So how to achieve that one? So for that, what I will do, I will add a project stage. Okay. So here I will say project. Okay. Very similar to what we have done here, right? So I will take the ID as 0. Okay. And what else I can do? I can change the underscore ID from male, female, and others to the gender column. Right. So I'll say dollar underscore ID. Okay. Now coming to the average salary. Okay. Now what I want to do? I want to round it off to 2 digits of decimal. Okay. So for that I use the dollar round aggregate function. Okay. On what? On the average salary. Okay. And how many decimal digits I want to have? I want to have 2 decimal digits. Okay. And I will also include the total count as 1. Okay. So when I save this one, you will see total count, okay, gender, and average salary. And average salary, now it is having only 2 decimal places, right? Great. Now let us go to next question. Okay. So now what it is saying, group employees by department and get maximum salary in each department, right? So let us do this one. So pipeline, okay, and I will say dollar group, and with which field I have to group. So I have to group by dollar department, okay, and what I have to take, I have to take the maximum salary, right? Okay. So how can I do that? So max salary, and I will use a aggregate function max, okay, on which field? On the salary field, right? So and here why it is giving error? Because it should be underscore ID. Okay. So now if you see, we have max salary in sales. Okay. In support, this is the max salary. Okay. And what if you have to do min salary? So if you want to do min salary, okay, you can guess it. So all I have to do is use min average function. Okay. And I'll get the mean salary. Okay. So now max salary as well as mean salary. Right. Great. Now let us go to next question. So what it is saying, group employees by is active and get a list of full names in each group. Okay. So what we will do? Let us add the group stage first. So pipeline. Okay. Then dollar group. Now by what we have to group? We have to group by is active status, right? So I'll say is active, okay, and what we have to do? We have to add the full name, okay. Now how to add full name? So what we have to do is we have to use the push function, and that push function will push all the names to that particular group, okay. This is not a aggregation, okay. So for it to behave like an aggregation, I have to use the push function, okay. So what push will do? So push, okay, push, what it will do? It will, okay, concat, okay, concat what? Concat dollar name dot first, okay, and a space, okay, and I will take some space here, okay, and comma, okay, and dollar name dot last. Okay, so what it is doing, it is pushing the concatenated result of first name space last name as full name. Okay, then what I will do, I will save this one. Okay, so here you will get the ID as false. This is the ID of the group value. Okay, so is active has two values, right? True and false. So for false value, okay, full name is an array, okay, and that's what we were using the push for. Okay, so it has first name space last name, okay, all the values, and for ID true, okay, we have the similar full name, right? So this is how you will solve this particular question. Okay, now since group is done, let us go to our next pipeline stage, that is a sort stage. So as the name suggests, the sort stage, you can sort a particular column by ascending or descending order, right? So let us check few examples on that. So here I'll add a new file. I'll call it 4 and sort.js. I will come to index and I will update this one for sort.js. Okay, and here it is throwing error. Let it throw. Okay, we'll fix it. So let pipeline. Okay, and export default pipeline. Okay, now we have all the collection with us, right? Now let us start with some sort questions. Okay, so I will just wrap this one and I will remove the folder tree. Okay, so sort all employees by salary in descending order. Okay, great. So let us write our pipeline. Okay, and here what I will do, I will add a sort stage. Okay, now what I have to do, I have to sort by salary. Okay, so I will say salary as -1 or +1. Okay, -1 is for descending and +1 is for ascending. Okay, so if you see here the salary, okay, 13,000 is 1,32,000 something, right? And next is 1,31,000, right? So if you see, this is following the pattern, right? So this is 676, this is 470, right? Then 307, right? So this is in descending order. Okay, then let us go to next question. So what it is saying, it is saying first sort by department, then by salary, high to low. Okay, so this is also going to be very easy. Okay, so I will say $sort, okay, and sort by department as 1. Okay, A to Z. Okay, that means if it says A to Z, it will be 1. Okay, if you have to do the reverse order, alphabetic sorting, it will be -1. Okay, and then salary, what it is saying, high to low. Okay, that means descending order. Okay, so we'll say -1, right? Now if I save this one, you will get the result first sorted by department and then sorted by salary. Okay, then let us check one more question. Okay, so what it is saying, sort employees so that inactive employees come first. Okay, this is also going to be very simple. You can try it on your own. Okay, so pipeline. Okay, and I will add a sort stage. Okay, and is active. Okay, as 1. Okay, so if you see is active false. Okay, is active false. Okay, so all is active false employees are listed. Okay, so is active false. Okay, let's scroll down and it is still showing is active false and there are 400 more items, right? So here it is not showing 400 more items, but towards the end you will get is active as true. Then let us go to next question. So what it is saying, sort by number of skills. Okay, so we don't have the number of skills, right, directly, but we have this skill as an array. Okay, so what we have to do, directly we cannot do sort like how we have done in previous questions, right? So for that, what we will do? We will use a project stage to find the number of skills and then do a sorting on that. Okay, so pipeline equals to, first will be a project stage. Okay, so I will pick name and number of skills. Okay, this will be dollar size of what, of skills. Okay, so now if I save this one, what we will get? Name and number of skills. Then what we can do? We can do dollar sort. Okay, sort on number of skills as 1. Okay, so if you see, we have 2 and 2. Okay, all are showing as 2. So let me just, for demonstration purpose, I'll say -1. Okay, so if you see, now we have 5, 5, 5, 5, right? So the 5 number of skills, they are coming here, right? Great. So I'll revert it back, and this is where we can conclude sort. Sorting is very easy. As such, you don't have to do much, but sometimes when you have to get data from derived field, you might want to use project and add fields and few things like that, right? And on top of this, if you want, you can match, right? So for example, you want to figure out the skills of the female gender, right? So that also you can do. You have to add a match stage first, then project, then sort, right? Simple. So if you want, you can practice those things on your own. Try adding multiple stages. Okay, so first, say for example, filter on active employees, then figure out number of skills, then sort them based on number of skills, or say for example, project on hold. Like that, you can always practice more questions, right? And this is where we are stopping for sort. Now let us discuss another stage, that is unwind. Okay, now what unwind will do? So see, there are few items which are array, like skills. Okay, skill is an array, and similarly projects, that is also an array, right? So what unwind will do is, based on the field on which you are doing unwind, it will create multiple objects. Okay, and each object will have one skill as its column. It will no longer be an array, but it will split, or it will create multiple copies of that particular document, and each document will have one skill. Okay, so if you take this example, okay, here we have this object, this collection document. Okay, when I do unwind on skill, it will create 3 documents, okay, in memory. It will not create in the actual collection, but only on the pipeline. Okay, it will create 3 more collections, 3 more documents. Okay, and each document will have this email and a name and one skill, that is this Python, say for example, and again another same object with one another skill, that is Go. Okay, so let us see this in action, and it will become even more clear. So what I will do, I will create another file. Okay, so new file, and I will say 5 unwind.js. Okay, and I will say let pipeline and export default pipeline. Okay, and I will come to index, and here I will add the unwind field. Okay, great. I'll close others. Okay, I'll open unwind and remove the file tree. Okay, now let us start our question. So here is the first question. So what it is saying, write a pipeline to unwind the skills array, so each skill appears in separate document. Okay, so let us write the pipeline for that. So we will add a stage. Okay, and this will be a unwind stage and unwind on what? Unwind on skills. Okay. Now if I save, if you see, it has created lot many documents. So if you say 1664 more documents. Okay. So if you see here, okay, this guy Patrick skill is now one single key value pair. Okay, go. Okay, and similarly again Patrick came with another skill JavaScript. Okay, and similarly if you see again Patrick, it has skills MongoDB. So in original collection, Patrick has a skill array of MongoDB, okay, and Go and JavaScript. Okay, these three fields were there in the array. Okay, now after unwind, each skill is now listed as a separate document. Okay, so this is what unwind will do. Okay, now let us do next question. So what it is saying? So the full name and each project status. Okay, so what we have to do? It is saying each project status. So if you see the collection, okay, we have projects, okay, and in that project we have different status. Okay, so what we have to do? We have to take each status and unwind that. Okay, so for this particular collection document, okay, we have three projects. Okay, one is completed, second one is completed, and third one is also completed. So unwind operation on this particular document should result into three more documents, and each document will have the status as completed or maybe on hold or whatever is the actual project status, right? So I'll say pipeline, okay, and I will add the stage of unwind, okay, and unwind on projects. Okay, so now if I save this one, you can see projects. Okay, there's some name and some status. Okay, earlier it was inside an array, now it came out. Okay, how it came out? For each array element, one new document is added. Okay, now what we have to print? We have to print the project status. Okay, so for that, what we will do? We can add a project stage. So project, okay, name as one and project status. Okay, this will come from $project dot status. Okay, earlier it was inside an array, now it is in the direct key value pair. So now you can say projects dot status, right, or projects dot duration in months, right? So whatever you want you can add. So what will be the, what is the output here? And if you see, we are not getting the project status, right? Why? Because it should be projects plural. Okay, so now if you see, we are getting ID, we are getting name and project status, right? So if you see this example, Richard has one project ongoing and this Richard has another project on hold, right? And Edward ongoing and ongoing, right? Because there were two projects array in Edward's name, right? So that's what unwind will do. Okay, then let us check one more question. So okay, so what it is saying, for each employee list one document per skill. Okay, that means you have to unwind by skill only if the employee is from engineering department. Okay, great. So what we have to do? We have to unwind, then we have to use match, right? So pipeline, okay, and we will add one stage and it will be unwind. Okay, unwind on what? Unwind based on skills. Okay, and I'll add one more match stage. Okay, and what it will match? It will match department as as engineering, right? So if you see all department engineering, and we have the skills not as a array but as individual key value pair, right? So skill as Docker, right? But this is the output but if you actually see the document, skill is actually an array, right? If you see skill, okay, so go and JavaScript as array. So when you do unwind for each array item, you will get one document. Okay, so that is the whole idea of a unwind. Now we will discuss another stage, that is the bucket stage or the bucket pipeline. Okay. Now what bucket will do? So as the name suggests, it will create few buckets for us based on certain condition. Okay. So where this is used. Say for example, we have salary. Okay. Now we want to create different bucket of employees. One bucket is for all the employees who have salary less than say 40,000. Then another bucket of employees who have salary between 40 and 60,000. Okay, and another bucket say for 60 to 80,000. Okay, similarly, one more example can be age. Okay, all employees who have age from 18 to 30, say we want to put in one bucket, then 30 to 40 in another bucket. Okay, and similarly 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and then of course we have a default bucket. Then and in that default bucket, the rest of the employees will fall. Okay, so this is where bucket comes into picture. Okay, so we will take few examples like how we have been doing till now, and we will get more clear understanding of what bucket does. Okay, now as usual, what I will do in the aggregations, okay, I will add a new file, call it as 6.bucket. Okay, and here I will say let pipeline and export default pipeline, and this I will add in index.js. Okay, I will save all of this, remove the file tree, and I will say npm run dev. Okay, great. Now let us start with our questions. Okay, so what this question 1 is saying, it is saying group employees into salary range. Okay, so less than 40,000, then between 40,000 to 60,000, 60 to 80, and 80,000 plus. Okay, so how we will write the pipeline for this? So what I will do, I will say pipeline as an array as usual, right? And I will add $bucket. Okay, then it will take few arguments. Okay, it has a few specific argument that it will take. Okay, so I will say group by which field. Okay, so which field you want to create the bucket on. Okay, that's what it means. So I will say $salary. Okay, then boundaries. Okay, just be mindful of the spelling. Okay, so this will take an array. Okay, so here what it is saying, 40,000, then 60,000, then 80,000. Okay, so I will say 40,000. Okay, then 60,000, and then 80,000. Okay, so what this will do, from 0 to 40,000 one bucket, from 40,000 to 60,000 another bucket. Okay, from 60,000 to 80,000 another bucket, and from 80,000 to whatever is the highest value more than 80,000, right? It will create bucket. Okay, then what else? We have to pass a default value. Okay, so default value others, that means anything above 80,000, okay, that will fall into the category of others. Okay, and output. Okay, what output we want to give. Okay, so we have created the bucket. Okay, and here one comma is missing. Okay, now what you want to do for that bucket? Okay, do you want to count how many employees are there in that particular salary bucket, or you want to count the average salary? Okay, like that you can do aggregate on this particular bucket. Okay, so here I will just say count. Okay, count, and I will say $sum as 1. Okay, so this is how you have to write a bucket pipeline. Okay, so what it is doing? It is doing 40,000 count as 1. Okay, 60,000 count as 92. Okay, and others. Okay, it is saying 357. Right? If you want, you can add more buckets. Okay, so like for example, I'll say 50,000. Okay, and maybe 55,000. Okay, so these are all the buckets. These are all the buckets that you can have. Okay, now if I run this one, you'll get from 50,000 we have 26. Okay, now why it is not giving 40,000? Because we don't have any salary in that range. Okay, so 50,000, from 55,000 to 60,000 we have 25. Okay, from 60 to 80,000 we have 92, and after 80,000 we have 357. Okay, not only count. Okay, since we have this bucket, okay, you can add more aggregate functions. Okay, so maybe if you want average, say age, okay, in each bucket, so what you can do, dollar avg, and you'll pass the dollar age column. Okay, so now if you do that, you will not only get the count but average age for this particular bucket or this particular salary group. Okay, so this is the concept of bucket. We have already discussed group, very similar to group, but you can give your own range or on what field and what range you want to create the bucket out of. Okay, great. So now let us do one more question on this. Okay, so now what it is saying, group employees into experience. Okay, so 0 to 2, okay, 2 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 plus, and we have to mark the 10 plus as veteran. Okay, that is the name that we want to give. Okay, and we have to show the total count and average salary for each bucket. Okay, so if you remember the database, okay, here if you see, we don't have the experience as such, but we have data of joining. And in one of the previous section, we discussed how we can get experience from data of joining, right? We have to do the same thing here, get the experience, and based on the new calculated field, we will create the bucket. Okay, so we will write multiple stages for this. Okay, so I'll say pipeline equals to an array of stage. Okay, first stage will be an add field stage. Okay, so I'll say add fields. Okay, this we have seen previously. So I'll say experience. Okay, experience, and this will be date diff. Okay, and we'll take the start date, which will be, okay, date of joining from our document. Okay, and date would be dollar now. Okay, this we have previously seen. Okay, so and the unit will be year. Okay, now if I save this much, okay, what I will get? I will get experience being added in the document. Okay, so all the document at the end you will see experience being added. Now with this experience field, we will create our bucket. Okay, so dollar bucket. Okay, so we will pass group by. Okay, and this will be experience, which we have added in the previous pipeline stage. Okay, then we will set boundaries. So this boundaries will be 0, 2, 5, 10. Okay, so 0, 2, 5, 10, and 10 plus. Okay, so this is how I will add the boundary. Okay, then default. Okay, what we have to do? We have to mark them as veterans. Okay, so I will say veteran. Okay, and what output we have to generate per bucket? So we will say count. Okay, count is going to be dollar sum, and say for example average salary. Okay, so this will be $AVG and on the salary field. Okay, so now I will save this one. Okay, so you will see the output. Okay, so from 0 to 2 we have 16 with average salary. From 2 to 5 we have this bucket. From 5 to 10 we have this bucket, and onwards, which is called a veteran. Okay, we have count and average salary, right? Okay, now it is saying underscore ID as 0, 2 and 5, right? So this doesn't look good, right? So let us try to add some level to this. Okay, so for that we will add another stage, and this is going to be a project stage. Okay, so what we will add, we will add count and average salary, right? So we will say count, okay, as 1 and average salary as 1. Okay, this is not complete yet, but if I show you the output now, okay, what output we will get? We will get the count and average salary. Now on this average salary, okay, what I want to do, I want to round it to 2 digits. Okay, so we have previously seen this one, so I will say round, okay, and it will take average salary and 2 digits. Okay, for reference, okay, let me do 3 digits. Okay, just for curiosity. Okay, so now you will get 3 decimal digits. Okay, now I will add a field called as label. Okay, and here I want to do switch, and how the switch syntax will work. Okay, it takes branches, an array of cases. Okay, and each case will be doing a comparison. Okay, based on ID. Okay, so here I can say, okay, $EQ, okay, what the dollar underscore ID as 0. Okay, if this is the case, then add the label as say fresher. Okay, now similarly, what I can do, I can copy paste these. Okay, and I will paste. Okay, and say for example 2. Okay, I will say junior. Okay, and 5 I will say mid level. Okay, and 10, okay, I can say senior. Okay, and I will add it again, and if this is equal to veteran, okay, then I will say veteran. Okay, so now if you see, we have this labels being added, okay, for each bucket, right? And if I want, okay, I can remove this ID by making it as 0, right? So now if you see, our bucket looks neat and clean. So this is where I'm concluding on the bucket, and we will move to our next pipeline stage. Now we will go to our next pipeline stage, that is the lookup stage. Okay, now what lookup will do, from one collection, okay, we can look up data on another collection and bring some data from there, like uh, very similar to what we have foreign key relation in terms of SQL database. Okay, so in our case, say for example, we have department. Okay, and we have the department like HR or engineering who that employee belongs to. Now if you want to get detail about that department, it will be sitting in another collection, right? It's a departments collection, and there we have department or the budget of the department, right? So from the employees collection, we can do a lookup on the department collection and perform some operation on that. This is what we are going to see. Okay, now for this, okay, you need the department collection, right? That also I'll give you in the code that I will share with you. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to go to aggregation practice or whatever database that you have created, and there you have to add the department collection. Okay, and you can import data departments.json. Okay, so I'll say import. Okay, and 5 documents have been imported. So we have the name, head, location, and the budget. Okay, so these are all the departments that we have. Now coming to our project. Okay, what I will do, I'll add a new file. Okay, I'll name it as 7 and lookup.js, and I will come to index. Okay, and here I will say 7.lookup.js, and here I will say let pipeline and export default pipeline. Okay, very usual stuff that we have been doing till now. Okay, great. Now let me bring in the questions and we will start practicing. Okay, so first question, find all employees, okay, with their corresponding department details. Okay, as a new field called department details being embedded into that collection. Okay, now let us do this. So what we will do, we will use the lookup. Okay, how we will use the lookup? So for this, of course, we will modify the pipeline. Okay, this will be an array of stages. Okay, and we will add our lookup stage. Now from, okay, from is the first parameter. Okay, from which collection you want to do the lookup. Okay, so I will do lookup from the departments, okay, collection. Okay, now we will add a field called local field. Now what is the local field? Of course, you have to do a name mapping between your current collection and the foreign collection or the lookup collection, right? So in our local field, okay, this department, okay, exists in the name of department field, right? So I will add department. So this is the name of the column in the collection on which we are running the aggregation pipeline. Okay, now we will add the foreign field. Okay, now what will be this foreign field? This foreign field will be nothing but this name field. Okay, this name field actually exists as this department in the employee collection. Okay, so this is the field name that we will use in the foreign field. Okay, so we will say name. Okay, and as, that means as what we want to add it into our collection. Okay, we will add it as department details. Okay, now if I save this one, okay, what value we will get? So this is our regular employee document. Okay, now if you see towards the end, okay, we have this department details. Okay, now this is coming as an array. Okay, it is saying object. Okay, but this object has the value of this particular HR department from this department collection. Okay, it will have this information, right? So this is showing as object, but most importantly, this department details has come as array of object. Okay, not a singular object, but it has come as an array of objects. Okay, because this framework assumes that there might be multiple possible lookups. Okay, so HR here, HR department, there can be multiple HR departments. Of course, in real world, department, multiple department at HR doesn't make sense. But in general, if you think, okay, there can be multiple lookups for the same, local field. Okay, so this assumes that there can be multiple lookups possible, and it is doing just as an array. Okay, for our consistency of the database, you can always assume this, that there will be only one lookup. Okay, but this framework assumes that there can be an array of lookups. Okay, now you might say that, okay, I don't want it as an array of object. Okay, I just want it as a single document. Okay, so just think about this for a minute and how you will approach this. Okay, I don't want it to be an array. Okay, I want it to be just a regular key value pair, not an array but a simple mapping. Okay, how we will do, we have already learned this, so we will use unwind. Okay, so I will say unwind on what, on department details. Okay, I'm just copying so that I will not do spelling mistake. Okay, so now if you see department as an object, as an array of object. Okay, now if I save this after doing unwind, okay, what we will get, we will get department as single object, and there we will have all the fields. So department is engineering. Okay, and that department engineering is head by this person, location is in this building, and budget is something. Okay, great. Now let us do one more question. So what it is saying, using lookup find employees who belong to department with a budget greater than 10 lakh or 1 million, right? Great. So let us do this. So we have to find the budget. Okay, so from where we will get budget, from here, right? And this department details we will get if we follow this pipeline. Okay, so for now I'm just copying this pipeline here. Okay, and what it is saying, with a budget greater than this value, right? So what we can do, after unwind, we can add a match stage. Okay, match what, match this department details dot budget. Okay, so department details dot budget. Okay, $GT, and what number it is saying, one with zeros, right? So I will add one more zero, right? So now if you see, this is 1.2 million, right? I hope I'm saying the number correct, but if it is not correct, then also you're getting the idea, right? One, this is 12, that is greater than this 10, right? This is also 12. Okay, let us see, do we have more? Yeah, so most of so here we have 15, right? 15, all 15s. Okay, like that we will get the result. Okay, so this is all the employees, okay, whose department budget is greater than this particular number, right? Now few more things. Okay, now if you see, we are getting all the result, right? So if I scroll down to the end, okay, it is saying 66 more result and everything, right? Now what if I just want, okay, the top 4 result? Okay, for that I can add one more pipeline. Okay, this is called as a limit. Okay, limit of 4. That means give me only 4 result. Okay, so now if you see, we have only 4 result. Okay, and maybe what we can do, we can do some projection. Okay, so I'll say project. Okay, and here I'll add a comma. Okay, and here I can say name as 1. Okay, and let us say department details as 1. Okay, so now if you see our output here, how many result we are getting? 1. Okay, and it has name and department details. So this is 1. Okay, 2 and 3. Okay, and 4. So now we are getting only 4 results. So this is the top 4 results, right? What if I want the next 4 and the next 4, right? So this is where pagination comes into picture, right? So what I can do, I can add another stage. Okay, and this is a $skip stage. Okay, now I'll say skip 8 and pick the next 4 items. Okay, so I'll get some result, right? Of course, in this example, we cannot verify that if this is actually skipping the 8 and then picking the 4. Okay, but this is how essentially it will work. Okay, you can skip something. Okay, and you can limit. Limit means it will pick only that many count. Okay, so now if you see, say for example, the page size is 4, so it has skipped 8. That means it has skipped 2 pages. Okay, and it is on the third page, right? This is what it means, right? One more concept that I can introduce you here. Now this collection, okay, that is doing a lookup between employee and department. This is existing only in the pipeline, in memory, right? We have option to write this into a actual collection. Okay, so what I can do, I can add another stage. Okay, and this is called as a merge stage. Okay, and I can give it a name. Okay, a collection name on which, okay, this result will be written to. Okay, so I'll say name underscore department. Of course, you can name whatever you want. Okay, now I will save this one. Okay, so now it is saying connected to MongoDB. Of course, that is coming from the Mongo connection function. And if you see the result, it is empty. Why? Because the result, instead of going to the console, it went into another collection. Okay, so if I do a refresh database, you will get name department, right? And you will get the output here. And this is not in memory, but it is actually written to a collection. Okay, so this is also you can achieve. Great. So we have covered lot of pipeline stages, and this is where I'm concluding this tutorial. I really hope that you liked this tutorial, and I have given all the knowledge that I have acquired on this aggregation pipeline. Of course, there are lot more things to learn. This is not the exhaustive list, right? But I have given you a platform from where you can learn further. Okay, so this is where I am concluding this video. I really hope that you enjoyed writing pipelines. If you like this video, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, because this is the kind of content I bring on a regular basis on this channel, and I'll see you in next video.